time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, people. Good morning.
Hello.
Happy Thursday, January 20th. 2022.
The cough is better today.
Sure it is. Whatever you say, stud. Wound up at urgent care yesterday. I'll explain that. Urgent care or the emergency room? Which one do you prefer? We'll talk about that. Obviously, we got to talk about Jaxson Dart. SEC versus BYU. Go Cougs.
On BYU Radio.
We'll talk about that coming up. I don't know. I don't know. So we'll talk about Jaxson Dart visiting BYU. We have to talk about African Americans versus Americans.
Apparently.
Wait until you hear the major racial bomb that was dropped in the Senate yesterday. I mean, we don't talk much politics on this show, as you're aware. Mm-hmm. We could not overlook this one.
U.S. Americans.
I mean, this one, my guy. See? It only took Miss America to throw me into a coughing fit.
U.S. Americans.
That's unbelievable. Wait until you hear the soundbite we're going to play with this. Because I'm at the point where on this show we have really tried not to talk politics.
Right.
Right now that what does Tanner always call him? The Twitter tangerine.
Oh, the tangerine Twitter machine.
Yeah, now that Donnie's going to jail and stuff.
I'm not a big fan of Fox.
Yeah, did you hear about that yesterday? Yeah,
they're releasing the records, bro.
He's in trouble, dude.
Yeah. Anyway,
we try not to talk politics on this show because it pisses everybody off. Dude, stick to sports, fat ass.
Damn liberals.
Prick. So we really try not to talk a lot of politics on the show, but this one today,
dude, you're missing the lead on the show.
What's
You're
that?
missing the best part about last night.
Shout out to Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba.
How do you not mention Mo Bamba's performance?
Bamba.
Come on.
That's one of the. Maybe we should make a T-shirt about
Shout out to
that.
Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba.
Shout out to Mo Bamba.
Hey, by the way, we're down to 6 T-shirts left, or 7.
7.
Something like that. We only sold 1 yesterday. Let's go, you cheap fucks.
Oh, my God.
U.S. Americans.
I'm kidding. Totally kidding. You are. No, you're not. So we've sold just about 20 shirts now. So let's wrap it up, because as soon as we get under, 1-0, no shirts left, we're gonna order up another one, and we're trying to figure out what we should put on that shirt. It's either shout out to Mo Bamba or Jake breaking up with somebody over text. Mm-hmm. So we'll do that.
He broke up with you over text message?
He did. You did. By the way, did you see that girl, Instagrammed at your grandmother?
No.
Yeah.
What?
She did.
What?
Kid you not. Yes, she commented on a post. Yes, she did.
This is news to me.
Yeah. Your ex-girlfriend is
What did she say?
Insta-snap facing. She wanted to know how you were doing and if it's still bent.
Wait, are you being serious?
I am being 100% serious.
Okay, I have to see this to believe this.
So my lovely mother-in-law came out yesterday. Well, she announced that she had a boyfriend. See, that came out wrong.
Bet you weren't expecting this one.
Yeah. My mother-in-law came out yesterday and announced that she was in a relationship.
Wow.
And on that Instagram, there it is.
That's wild, bro.
There it is. There it is. The girl that Jake broke up with over text commented on that post.
I really don't care if you think it's sus.
Wow.
Love it.
Wow.
How does that make you feel? Don't start. Does that make you feel vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. What am I supposed to feel about it, dude? I mean, it doesn't upset me. I just am,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I was unaware that, it doesn't really matter. It really is not a big deal.
So we'll talk about that topic later in the show as well, but let's start with the Utah Jazz. We have been really on this story for the last week or so, and we've been working our sources behind the scenes, trying to figure out what is going on in the Jazz locker room. And we were told last night that there is a significant riff in that locker room, really centered around Rudy Gobert. And the story, as it has been explained to us, is that Rudy has been voicing his displeasure in the locker room with defensive struggles, as well as the team's, I don't know if you would call it inability or their unwillingness to feed him offensively in the post. And this has become quite an issue in the locker room for the Utah Jazz. And it's created kind of a rift. And the two main targets of his frustration have been Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson. And now what you're seeing is that chemistry on this team, as we've been telling you for well over a month now, is a real significant issue for this ball club. And yesterday night, that was on full display. The Utah Jazz got embarrassed at Vivint Arena against one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Houston Rockets. And what this loss does is blows up the narrative that the team only lost to Detroit because, well, it was without Rudy Gobert. Well, now you had Rudy Gobert, and you didn't have Donovan Mitchell, and you got humiliated at home against the Houston Rockets. And I think there was no doubt in that game, Jake, the lack of chemistry was on full display.
Yeah, I just think they're not playing together. I think the team is playing individual basketball. They're playing a lot of one-on-one basketball. And I think, it's just the more and more I watch this team, the more and more, we hear the stories about Gobert and Don, and the team having issues. It just makes me feel like, a lot of change is coming. And I know we talk about this every single day. I know that this has been the conversation every day for like 2 weeks now. But every time you lose to one of these teams, a team that you should beat, you're at home. There's no excuse to shoot as poorly as they did. And frankly, to allow the Rockets to shoot as well as they did. There's no excuse for playing this poorly. I don't care if Donovan Mitchell's hurt. You've got plenty of other guys, And I just think that this team is really going through some pretty serious adversity at this point. The players, the Mike Conleys of the world are going to tell you, oh, it's no big deal. We're just going through some stuff, and we'll figure it out, and it's not the end of the world. But I'm here to tell you that that's a bunch of garbage, man. I'm here to tell you that what else is he going to say? Is he going to say that the team is burning down and they got to trade everybody? Well, no, of course not. So I just think that there's a lot of different ways that this situation could be handled if you're Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith in the front office, right? I mean, you could fire Quinn and try to get a new head coach and do nothing with the roster. You could keep Quinn and blow the roster up and be bad for, 2 seasons and then come back. I mean, there's no telling what they're going to do, but I just think this whole dynamic, of what we're hearing with Gobert being upset that the team isn't trying hard defensively is a little misplaced by him, because it's not as though he is the best player on the team. It's not as though he's, even one of the best players in the league, because he's not. He's one of the best defensive players, but he doesn't have the total package, and that's what I think is tough, and that's why I think the team lacks accountability. You had said something yesterday about, hey, what do we think is going on with Don? You think someone's going to walk up to Don and say, hey, you got to play better defense or else we're going to bench you? Don doesn't have anybody to push him. He doesn't have a reason, outside of himself and his desires to be great and to take this team to new heights. So I just think the dynamic is flawed. That's what I think. I think you paid the wrong guy. I think that guy and Rudy Gobert thinks he's sliced bread when he's really not by NBA standards. And I think that it's creating issues. And I just hope that the Donovan Mitchell wants to be a New York Knick after the New York Mets were tweeting at him the other day. I hope that narrative doesn't get sped up because of these struggles.
Well, I don't think there's any question that this is not good in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you have two really, really good basketball players in Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert that don't seem to like each other that much and don't seem to enjoy playing with each other that much. We've talked about this repeatedly. I think we have been very accurate in what we have been telling you about the fact that the chemistry between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell is broken, and it will determine win and loss for this team. It will determine the long-term viability of the current roster makeup, because if Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell don't like each other and they don't get along, this particular team cannot thrive and win games.
Yeah.
This particular team cannot compete at the top of the Western Conference. This is not the LA Lakers who benched Russell Westbrook last night at the last 4 minutes of the game when the game was tight down the line. You're not benching Rudy Gobert. You're not benching Donovan Mitchell. That's not an option for this roster. You see how poorly they play when one or the other is out of the lineup. And that perhaps is the biggest issue here, is that there's no way to fix this. You either deal with it or you trade one of those two guys. And that's what we've been talking about now for going on the better part of a week. That there is one untouchable on this team, and that is Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert, and I know that everybody freaked out on Twitter the other night when I was tweeting about it. Rudy Gobert is not untouchable. Rudy
Bro, what
Gobert.
are you talking about, man?
Well, I'm telling you right now what I'm talking about is Rudy Gobert is a guy that is not tradable, but the Jazz will listen if you call. And I am not telling you in any way, shape, or form that Danny Ainge is burning up phone lines offering Rudy Gobert in trades. But I am telling you that if you call the Utah Jazz and you say, hey, what would it take to get, Rudy Gobert? They'll have the conversation with you. If you call and say, what will it take to get Donovan Mitchell? There won't be a conversation. We're not open to trading Donovan Mitchell. But I'm telling you, the Utah Jazz are open to trading Rudy Gobert. And it is as simple as Rudy is a one-dimensional player who does not bring you as much as you would like offensively, and he is becoming a guy that gets exposed defensively by no fault of his own. He is an elite, tremendous defender. But Rudy Gobert cannot defend an entire opponent on his own.
Yeah.
And when you look at the way this team defends, they could not keep the Houston Rockets out of the paint last night. They could not keep Eric Gordon from attacking Rudy Gobert. You were texting at me last night when that was happening.
And I went right into his chest and moved him.
And what have you been saying about Rudy Gobert?
That I mean, it's just a simple fact. It's not this doesn't just apply to Rudy. I mean, this is any big in the league. A smaller guard can beat any big in the league simply by putting their shoulder into his chest at the rim and moving him. I mean, that is basketball. That's how you're taught to move guys to open up a window to finish at the rim. And I think Eric Gordon is a master of that, and he put that on full display last night. And that's I think we saw it in the Olympics against Rudy. I think we see it from time to time when guys need to stop trying to dunk on Rudy, and they need to just put a shoulder into his chest and understand that they can get easy looks by doing that, And I just think I don't know. It's kind of it's a tough conversation. I'll be honest with you guys, because there's not an easy solution because of the money. There's not an easy solution because of the roster. There's not a simple trade target that goes and fixes all your issues. It's not like you're this great team and you're one piece away from a championship. That's not what this team is. I think when you start having to talk about, hey, our two best players don't like each other or reportedly don't like each other and they have this issue and, there's not a lot of chemistry, like that's just like, hey, we started with a little campfire here and we were roasting some marshmallows. Let's turn this thing into burning the whole house down, That's what that is. And so I don't know. Is it 100% true? I can tell you the people we get information from haven't been wrong yet. So I trust them. I trust the information we get, so I do think it's true. I do think there's a lot of credibility in it, a lot behind it. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if this is like the starting point, the beginning of the end, if you will, for this roster. But this is going to be a long ass second half of the season if this is what we're going to get the rest of the way.
Oh, and I don't think there's any doubt that this will not continue. Because you have a trade deadline that's, 20 days away now, February 10th?
Yeah, it's coming.
I mean, you're 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. This roster will be different. And I'm not telling you that Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell are going to be the ones to get moved, because I don't think they will.
Bojan.
I believe that Bojan Bogdanovic, I believe that Jordan Clarkson is absolutely on the block. We've heard repeatedly that the Jazz are open for business on everybody but Donovan Mitchell. And, I mean, you can draw whatever water to that point that you want, meaning that, yeah, you're probably not open for business on Rudy Gobert because he's got an untradeable contract.
Yeah.
But the other part of this conversation that I think is so fascinating is that Rudy Gobert, I think, is embarrassed now or feeling some heat about his lack of production offensively. And when I say his lack of production, I don't mean how many points he's putting up on the board. I mean how those points are coming. And we've talked about this repeatedly. And it was interesting talking to an NBA guy last night. He was essentially saying, it doesn't matter if you score 20 points. If it's all dunks and if it's all putbacks, you're not going to be as effective in the postseason doing that.
Yeah.
And when you are the second worst player in the NBA with your back to the basket, that's Rudy Gobert.
Mm-hmm.
By the metrics, by the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
Rudy Gobert's the second worst player with his back to the basket. How is that possible?
Yeah.
It is a shocking revelation that's been right in front of our faces
for years now.
The entire time he's been a Jazz man.
Yeah.
And it's the glaring weakness in his game. You don't fix that. And a lot of people on Twitter made this point yesterday, and I agree with it. The guy's not 18 years old and a rookie, coming out of France.
He's not Mo Bamba, all jokes aside. That's not who he is.
But no, the point is he's had a decade to try and develop an offensive game.
Yeah.
He's not been able to do it. And when the money is on the line and when it is crunch time,
Mm-hmm.
whether this is, as you said, the Olympics, which I think is a really good point, or the NBA playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
he's not on the floor when it matters most. And when he is on the floor at the end of games in crunch time, it doesn't end well for his team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're seeing guys attacking Rudy Gobert because he is the only guy that is making a real effort. And if it is in fact true, and I believe that it is, that he is complaining loudly in the Utah Jazz locker room about effort and intensity on defense, I don't know that you can fix this. I don't, because that tells you that there is a lack of respect for Quinn Snyder and that he's lost that locker room. If your best defensive player is calling out other players on your roster for their lack of effort and intensity on defense, your head coach has lost the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very scary proposition for a team that's always been built on, hey, we like each other. This is a great place to play ball.
Yeah, okay.
Well, right now it's not. And I think that is a very scary place to be because, again, I just point to the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
That team is a disaster. They're staying together. You listened to LeBron last night, and if you didn't see it, Russell Westbrook got benched for the final 3 minutes of that game last night that the Lakers lost inexplicably. Mm-hmm. I mean, just played terrible basketball. They lose that game. LeBron has another massive performance. And essentially, Russell Westbrook abandoned the defensive game plan and did not execute at all, so Frank Vogel benched him. With 8 seconds to go, Russ walked off the floor, went and changed his clothes, and left the arena. Did not talk to his teammates, did not talk to the media.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron was sitting up on the podium last night talking to the media, being asked about it, and he point blank said, how would you feel if you were Russ? Would you be upset you got benched? I mean, he's defending his teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly the guy that's the center of the problems for the Lakers, Russell Westbrook, the best player arguably in the NBA, sits up there as a teammate and defends him. Yet what do we get from Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and Jordan Clarkson?
Mm-hmm.
We get infighting, and we get tweets and subtweets and likes, and you hear about Frank Vogel being on the hot seat and being fired, and he's not going to be here, and LeBron wants him gone. Well, it certainly sounds like LeBron's being a team player. Can't say the same thing for Rudy Gobert. Can't say the same thing for Donovan Mitchell. How on earth did Rudy Gobert compare Donovan Mitchell to Devin Booker?
Don't get it. I don't get it.
It's unfathomable.
So I'm saying I think Rudy is after something. Rudy has something he wants to happen. Rudy's trying to push for something.
I would agree.
And anytime that happens, it's just Rudy Gobert is somebody who thinks he's, frankly, the shit, if you will, with all due respect. He thinks he's the best ever and, he's unstoppable. And he's not. And we all know that. And I think that when you think that you're better than you actually are, when you think that you're better than what the box score says you are, when you think you're better than what the opponent thinks you are, sometimes that's good. But for a guy like Rudy Gobert, that's not good. And he's not the guy in the locker room that should be running his mouth about defense or holding guys accountable. That's Donovan Mitchell's job.
I'm telling you now that the worst thing and the best thing that's ever happened to Rudy Gobert is this contract. Because it's awesome that he'll never want for anything in his life ever again financially.
Mm-hmm.
But it has put him in the center of a bullseye. because the Jazz are in the worst possible position in that you have a guy who probably has value in Rudy Gobert, but he's untradeable. That contract is absolutely, and I disagree with it. One person described it as the worst contract in the NBA. I don't think that's the case. But when I look at his ability to impact this roster, it's massive, and it's not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have money to spend. Your average $41 million a year on Rudy Gobert, and you just aren't going to be able to move that deal probably for 2 more seasons.
Yeah.
So you are stuck paying Rudy Gobert. And now I think he probably knows that. And I think, damn it. I think he probably is acting out on that.
Yeah.
I think he is frustrated. I think that this narrative, if you remember back, look at what Shaq said about it, that it's a terrible contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is. There's no question it's a terrible contract. That's not even in question.
And now I think Rudy Gobert is hearing that from people around the league. If you're hearing that his friends and international teammates around the league are asking him, well, why aren't they throwing you the ball? Hey, they're not throwing you the ball. I think he's probably embarrassed by that. I think he's probably frustrated by that. We've talked about it for a year on this show that Donovan Mitchell doesn't even look at him.
Well, he refuses to throw him the ball. I mean, he doesn't look at him. He knows, like when they're playing their best basketball, Rudy's going to come up from the weak side block. He's going to set a screen for whoever the ball carrier is, and then he's going to roll the basket. And 9 times out of 10, he's wide open, and nobody will feed him except Mike Conley. And that's just how they play basketball. And when they're at their best, nobody talks about it. But when they're at their worst, like they are now, everybody talks about it. So, I don't think that. Listen, the Jazz don't have a lot of options right now. The only question right now here today, if you're Quinn Snyder, is how the hell can I smooth this out a little bit? How can I buy myself some time? How can I get this team playing better basketball again? What can we do? And I don't know the answer to that question, because if we're hearing about it, right? If we're hearing, hey, there's some issues, how bad is it really? I think we can all agree that, the media and people who cover sports teams typically don't get the full story. But when it's being talked about on any level, there's definitely something there. Something has happened to bring it up. So I just think that Quinn Snyder needs to sit this team down and get it going again. Get it back together. Figure it out. Get back on the same page. Grow up. That's kind of the feeling I have about this team right now. I just want to say to them, dude, grow up, man. Stop being immature. You're paid professionals to play a child's game. Grow up, dude.
I don't know. And again, I'll use the Laker comparison. The Lakers lose to the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
And you bench Russell Westbrook, and you have a guy in LeBron James defending him. But we also know that LeBron has held him accountable.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that LeBron is seen on a regular basis on the bench and on the floor, calling him out for bad shots, bad defense, not hustling. But yet when he dunks on Rudy Gobert the other night, did you see the entire Laker team celebrating that? That's chemistry. When you have accountability and you have performance and you have a team who clearly one of their weaknesses is Russell Westbrook. He got benched last night. So the story goes from Tim McMenamin at ESPN is that Frank Vogel has the full support of the front office to bench Russell Westbrook. And that the game plan for the Lakers last night was to force Karis LeVert to go left, to take his right hand away. Karis LeVert drove to his right, on his right hand, and Russell Westbrook just let him go. Did not defend the right hand, just let him go by, and it was a layup. Mm-hmm. And Vogel had seen enough. He pulled him out of the game, did not put him back in. Russ leaves with 8 seconds to go, and you didn't hear guys turning on Russell Westbrook. Frank Vogel, after the game last night, did not blow Russell Westbrook up. He was asked why you benched him, and Frank Vogel said, I played the guys I thought could win the game. He didn't say, well, he was terrible. His shots were bad. He didn't defend. He played the guys who he thought could win the game.
Which I think is an excellent answer.
And that's why I'm telling you, when you look at teams across, I look at the Chicago Bulls last night, not because I'm a Bulls guy, and I am, admittedly. You're without Lonzo Ball. You're without Lonzo Ball, who now looks like he's out for a month with a knee injury.
Yeah.
You're without Zach LaVine. Neither one of those guys is going to go on this upcoming trip. You're without two of your most important players, and you find a way to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
You find a way to win that game. And that's what this Jazz team are not doing.
Yeah.
They are no longer finding ways to win the game. And you look at the Bulls beating the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 2 games out of the top spot in the East. That's not an easy win without 2 of your best players. And they win 117-104.
Mm-hmm.
That's a character chemistry win.
Well, and I think it's a leadership thing, too, overall. Like, I think, like the Laker dynamic is really an interesting comparison because I think the Lakers, the Bulls are going through what every NBA team goes through. Every NBA team deals with injuries or protocol or guys missing games. I mean, it's just part of the league. But I think the Laker comparison, is the best one you've made so far because of the dynamic there. It would be easy for that roster to be like, yeah, Russell Westbrook's wasting our time.
Yeah.
He's selfish. He's not making plays. It would be easy to blow him up. But I think the reason you're not seeing that is because it's a LeBron James led team. And I have my thoughts about LeBron and, where he stacks up about greatest of all time and all that nonsense, right? But what I think we can all agree on is LeBron has always done a great job of keeping his teams in line, making sure that everybody 1 through 15, I guess, is all on the same page and doing the same things.
And they understand who talks and who doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I look at that Denver win last night.
Yeah, a hell of a performance.
Jokic with a 49-point double,
50.
A 50-point triple-double last night. I look at those character wins, and I'm not saying these teams are better than the Jazz. I'm just telling you, these are all examples of the Utah Jazz absolutely disintegrating in the locker room, and
their core,
it just didn't need to happen.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to happen.
And I agree with the concept that Donovan Mitchell needs to develop as a leader. I don't mean this to come off as me hating on Don, but I think if you're gonna be a premier talent in the NBA, if you want to be considered, one of the best players in the league, well, the fact is the best players in the league. And this goes for, your office, the NBA, any kind of team environment. The highest performer has an inherent responsibility to lead the team. It just is what it is. It's how, human beings work. So when Donovan Mitchell is apparently getting involved in these petty ass relational issues with Rudy Gobert, it just tells me he's not ready to win yet, and that's the thing. This is the concept that we talked about, months ago now, where, and really it was in the postseason last year, where a lot of people would start to say, well, Don doesn't understand that he's got to draw the double to pass to his teammates because he doesn't trust his teammates.
That's right.
So I just think that Don has a lot of growth still. And unfortunately, if he's got to go, okay, great. But
that leadership thing you're talking about, though, Donovan Mitchell doesn't have to go. And this is what we have to stop doing. We have to stop telling people if it's not good enough, you need to leave. We have to stop doing that. Donovan Mitchell is your second highest paid player. He is your best player. Grow him, develop him, make him become a leader. And if he cannot become a leader, then you move him. But right now is when we're going to find out what this roster is made of. We're going to find out who the true team building, character leadership guys are on this roster.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm telling you, I think you've got one. And my guess is it's Rudy Gay. And that's the guy that needs to mentor Donovan Mitchell. Because Rudy Gay's been there and seen that, and he's been around some of the best organizations. But I'm telling you, Donovan Mitchell has never had to do this before. There is no reason to go after him. This is a teachable moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is, hey, Don, this is what we should be doing. Who is Donovan Mitchell talking to? Who is influencing Donovan Mitchell? Everybody says, well, Dwayne Wade has taken Donovan Mitchell under his wing.
Has he?
Has he? Because I've never seen Dwayne Wade do the things that Donovan Mitchell has done.
Facts.
Donovan Mitchell's a selfish basketball player. And in some aspects, I love that about him. But right now, that's not what's needed. They need Donovan Mitchell to bring his teammates with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need. They need guys like Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert needs to shut up and play basketball. Stop talking.
Yes.
Stop talking to the media. Stop talking to the officials. This waving of your hands again last night. He gets a call and he's yelling at the official. And you can see the official just throw his hands up like, what more do you want me to do? I gave you the call. I blew the whistle. What do you want me to do? Yet Rudy Gobert is standing on the court yelling at the official. I just, at some point, he's got to stop talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Bojan Bogdanovic, same thing. But here's the difference. Bojan Bogdanovic is an expendable, not that integral part of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy Gobert is absolutely integral to the current construction of this team and the success or failure of this team. Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell will make or break this team.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I'm looking at the other dudes on this roster. They're all old, and they are all expendable.
Mm-hmm.
There's not another guy outside of Gobert and Don that are really that significant to this roster. Not as it's constructed now. Not as it's constructed now. Best teams in the NBA. This is, and again, you're probably going to hate this. This is why the Warriors are so different. Because they are still young. They are still athletic. And your best player is the unquestioned best player, alpha dog on that team.
Mm-hmm.
But who's the real leader of the Golden State Warriors?
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green. But who's your best player? Well, your best player is Steph Curry. But Steph Curry doesn't have an ego and isn't that guy who's like, no, I'm the guy that's got to be the face.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not who Steph Curry is. And that's why their chemistry works perfectly. Look how happy they all are for Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this Jazz team is missing. And frankly, you know what? I have vivid memories talking about Karl Malone about this exact same way. Karl Malone is arguably the reason you didn't win a championship. Karl Malone was not a great chemistry guy. Like, it's so interesting, the parallels on teams who are this close.
Mm-hmm. But can't get out of their own way.
And yet they're so far away.
Yeah, it's frustrating as hell.
And that's who this Jazz team was last year. This year, this is not a championship competitive team. It's not. All right, let's get some comments because I know we've kind of been railing. Let's see where we're at. There's a lot of comments. I appreciate that this morning. Brylark says, morning, boys. Tawanga says, sup, fellas. What's up?
What's up?
The Nye guy says, morning, fellas. Tanner Plummer's here.
Tanner
says, morning, guys. The Utah Jazz are officially an accident waiting to happen. Edgar Garcia says, what's up, boys? Let's get it. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. John Jackson says, I can't stop laughing about yesterday's show. So funny. Love listening to the show. Thanks, John. Appreciate you. The Nye guy says, the other day we were going back and forth about Kyler Murray. I said he sucks, and you disagreed. Him and Tanner are having a conversation about
You guys are punching
Kyler
each
Murray.
other in the face about Kyler Murray and the guys not playing anymore.
Brylark says she's going back to the well, man. She's trying to slide back into Jake's life. The girl that Jake broke up with over text is now commenting on family members' social media posts. The gift that keeps on giving. Was it worth it? Probably not. Neville93 says, good morning. Good morning, boys. I'm a Bulls fan now. LOL. Wow, Jazz. Night Guy says, how did all you Rudy over Mitchell gang like that game last night?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon's Whiteside. What's up, Brandon? Good to see you, bud. He says, good Rudy is probably right. The 3-point trash I'm watching and the defensive struggles are horrible. Oh, it's embarrassing. The defense that this team is playing right now.
What defense?
I mean, it is abysmal.
Yeah.
Man, like, I just, does it surprise you that on a night-to-night basis we see a new, I can't believe they did that in the wrong direction on defense?
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is, like, yeah, I guess it kind of surprises me, but what surprises me more is it seems like every night, we hear Quinn Snyder after the game saying that, oh, well, we're just not communicating defensively. Like, how many games in a row are you going to show up to the post-game presser and be like, yeah, we weren't communicating defensively, and that allowed some open looks, and that's why we lost the game. Okay, how about we learn how to communicate defensively? How about we make some adjustments? How about we actually, again, like I was just saying, how about we grow up and put our pride to the side and play winning basketball? Because that's what they're doing.
How did you get out offensive rebounded last night? How did you have 3 technical fouls? They had none.
Well, Rudy wasn't playing last night, right? Rudy Gobert wasn't in the game.
Apparently, he didn't have a double-double last night.
Hmm.
By the way, they outscored the Rockets 62-36 in the paint and lost. The Jazz, you realize, the Jazz had a 13-point lead in this game and lost to the Houston Rockets. I mean, and again, the thing that really bothers you is the Rockets shot 49% from 3. 49%, 43% from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a super young team that's getting good looks and knocking them down.
Yep.
And you on the other hand, the Utah Jazz shot 26% from 3. And the numbers, by the way, the numbers are ugly. I mean, you look at Rudy last night, 23 points, 9 boards.
That's it.
You look at Bojan Bogdanović, 29 points, 3 of 13 from 3. He took 27 shots and got 29 points.
And this is the problem. They're still taking the threes. The problem is the quality of the look is terrible because they're not playing team basketball.
27 shots to get 29 points. Good grief. Mike Conley, 3 of 8 from 3. Joe Ingles, 2 of 7, 10 points. And I look at Jordan Clarkson. I'm telling you, he's 20 minutes. You've got to play him 20, 22 minutes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Last night he plays 29 minutes, 7 of 13 from the floor for 19 points. 13 shots to get 19 points. Like one of the least efficient games I think we've ever seen from this team.
Yeah.
It's
and that's why I say Quinn's got to be in the conversation. I think everybody except Don's in the conversation. Like, I'm. It's getting to a point where we're struggling to figure out what we want to talk about with this team.
Three technical fouls.
Because this team is just going through the ringer right now, and I don't know. Like, are we supposed to roll out and say, hey, yeah, everyone they need to blow this thing up and that's the solution? Well, that's all fine and dandy, but that doesn't help you tomorrow. That doesn't help you for your next game. Like what if you really sit down and think about it? What options does Quinn Snyder have other than, hey, like, what are we doing? We got to get our stuff together here. So I don't know. I think it's I think it's perhaps the most difficult coaching situation in the league right now. I don't know. Like every other team, you have like one obvious problem you're dealing with. You have Russell Westbrook. You have Damian Lillard's out for a while. You have Kevin Durant's out for a while. You have Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball are out. Like you're just dealing with classic injury issues.
And you can't. Anyway, it's really frustrating to look at the. I should not have looked at the team stats. Like this is
no, it's embarrassing, dude. It's not good. It's not good. You're playing selfish basketball.
I don't know how you're not thinking about making a coach. You have to make a coaching change after this season.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Quinn's 9th season.
Yeah, it's time.
I think you got to make a coaching change.
Yeah.
I with all due respect, I love Quinn. I think he's done great, but he has lost his team.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only other way that I can say it. Brandon says Rudy wasn't the problem. Can't make a 3 to save their lives. It's disgusting to watch. The Brick Fest has nothing to do with Rudy, but the problem is that's who you are as a team, though. You cannot ask this Tiger to change his stripes now. I mean, this team. How many times have we said it? If they don't shoot 40% and attempt probably 40 to 53 point shots, they don't win.
Yeah.
That's what
that has everything to do with Rudy Gobert, by the way, because if he was a better offensive player, they wouldn't have to do that.
But maybe you could throw the ball into the post and you could have an inside-out game. Mm-hmm. The issue becomes it's not that they shoot too many threes. They're selfish. They play one-on-one basketball. That bogey technical last night where he got that shot blocked and was all upset about a foul, no foul call. Like that, to me, drive and kick, create some motion, move the basketball, reverse the basketball.
Yeah.
You know, like I look at that, you know, the play that comes to mind last night is the Wizards game at the end against the Nets.
Yeah.
You reversed the basketball, you moved it, and you got a wide open look for Kyle Kuzma. Now he missed it, but
that's what you're looking for.
You're looking for a wide open three out of this team, and I think that's what puts you in a place to win. John Jackson says, what caused the chemistry to change now at the beginning? It looked much better. Don't get me wrong. We need to switch out some players. I think losing is a disease.
Yes.
And when you lose the way that they lost to the Clippers and they lost in the bubble, I mean, frustration grows. And then it starts creeping in. And Don's injured, and now he's got a concussion. He had the ankle last year. Like, you got embarrassed by the Clippers. Let's not forget, you were up 2-0 in that series with home court advantage.
And you thought you were cruising.
And you got embarrassed by the Clippers.
Yeah.
And now you come back this season, and your guys are just not the same guys. Like, the decline of Joe Ingles is shocking.
Yeah.
Joe Ingles has absolutely run into a brick wall with his ability. Like, it is
How many times is this team going to get punched in the face before they can't get up anymore? I mean, that's what we're talking about. You know, like that's what the journey has been.
That Royce O'Neal is your best option right now. That, you know, Bojan Bogdanovic, everybody gets pissy when I say it. He's not a 20-point guy anymore. I've been talking about this all year. If they're going to win, Bojan's got to score 20, and it can't be on 29 shots.
Yeah.
He's got to be better.
It's got to be on 3 of 6 from 3,
but he's done. He's not better. This is the issue is that the best teams in the NBA are not at their ceiling. The Bucks are better than they were last year. They're not at their ceiling. They're growing. You look at Philly. Joel Embiid has become a better basketball player. I don't know how he's done it. He's become a better basketball player.
He's working on his game.
Right? They're growing.
And that's why I think the Gobert thing is frustrating, because you're seeing, like, Lonzo Ball. Like, Lonzo Ball's year-over-year development from 3 is clear. The numbers very clearly spell it out. And that's why I think people lose their patience with Rudy, because he's not trying to get better offensively. He's just not. He's not trying to improve his individual game, and that's frustrating.
It is very frustrating. So the Jazz are not improving. The Jazz are on the backslide. And it's because they're an older team that is unathletic. I don't know how many times I can say that. Jesus Christ destroys Satan's lies. I don't think that's on your birth certificate, sir. Says the latest reports say Utah is actually looking into a trade that Detroit is actually open to, which sends Grant to Detroit, from Detroit to Utah for a future second-round pick and JC and Butler. How are you that trade makes there's no way you can make that trade.
How does that make sense for the Jazz?
You're paying the luxury tax. That money doesn't add up. That trade just does not work. I mean, I listen, I like Jeremy Grant. I do. But to me, there's just no way that you can make, and by the way, the Jazz can't trade a draft pick until 2028, I think. Like, I mean, that trade just does not make any. There's no. I think Jordan Clarkson's only making like $12 million, if memory serves. Yeah, $12 million.
The point is that trade just doesn't work. You're not going to trade Jordan Clarkson and Butler.
Jeremy Grant's making $20 million, bro.
But like, even outside of the money, let's say the money did work. Why would you trade for him when you've already got Rudy Gobert, Hassan Whiteside, Eric Paschall? Like, you've got guys at that position already.
If you can exchange Jeremy Grant for Royce O'Neal, I'm open to doing that every day. I mean, you would just put Royce on the bench and start Jeremy Grant, but that doesn't make you a better team, because Jordan Clarkson. That and when does Jeremy Grant's contract runs through? He's a free agent after next season. So, I mean, that money just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's not a good trade.
There's no way it's with all due respect, man. Like, that trade just doesn't work. Jeremy Grant's a great player. Harrison Barnes a great player. They're out of your price range.
Yeah.
And to make that deal work, and the trade that everybody was talking about was the Jazz were going to be a third team in Detroit and Philly's trade for Ben Simmons. But somehow, some way, Philadelphia doesn't want Jeremy Grant and Sadiq Bey for Ben Simmons. And that's something I will never understand.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Jeremy Bolton says, yup, it's so hard to watch. Royce sucks. Why is everybody, the funny thing is, so people were tweeting at me yesterday about apparently the local radio shows talked about us extensively yesterday here in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And talked about how a former local radio or a former local media hack is throwing stuff against the wall for attention. And that, one of the other shows now saying that the Jazz are open for business and aggressively exploring trades. So what is it? Are we throwing stuff against the wall, or are we exactly right on what's happening? And what was also fascinating is you flip on the radio, like I flip on the radio leaving the gym yesterday, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, well, Royce O'Neal is not the defender that everybody makes him out to be.
Well.
Wait, what? I thought Royce O'Neal was a lockdown defender. And
yeah, one of the best one-on-one defenders in the league.
Are you sure? Are you sure? And that, this is the price that the guy was saying that sources, NBA and Jazz sources were saying that this is the price you pay for signing Rudy Gobert to that contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's just remarkable to me that we've been, wildly inaccurate, and we're a couple of assholes who just make stuff up. And all of a sudden now, the local media that's so respected,
the local media
now is quoting us chapter and verse.
Yeah.
Come on. Whatever. I'm just going to call you Satan's lies. It says the only player that could be equal or close value for Gobert would be a player like Bam Adebayo or maybe Embiid. But the issue is not value on the floor. Joel Embiid is exponentially a better center than Rudy Gobert. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody claims that Rudy Gobert is the best center in the NBA.
Yeah.
Or at least I haven't heard that. I think when you look at big men in the NBA, I mean, the gold standard right now is probably Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's probably the best 4 or 5 guy in the NBA. He really is a power forward. But if you're looking at pure centers, I don't know who's a better center than Joel Embiid right now.
Jokic.
You think Jokic is better?
Yeah. I think Jokic does more first team.
Yeah. I think Joel Embiid is the best center in the NBA. Defensively, offensively, certainly.
I like Joel a lot. I mean, it's close, but I just think that consistently, Jokic is putting up huge numbers.
Jokic or Rudy?
Jokic all day.
You take Jokic.
All day, not even close. Twice on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Brandon.
If Jokic was a Utah Jazz man, they'd be contending for NBA Finals appearances.
Yeah. Okay. The night guy says, Tanner, amen, buddy. Tanner says, I think Ainge needs to have a rotation decision, but that's not how it works. You don't hire a coach to teach him how to coach.
Yeah.
Look at Frank Vogel, the Lakers situation. Frank Vogel supposedly is about to get fired. Yet Rob Pelinka and the front office have said, you coach the way you want to coach. If you want to bench Russ, bench Russ.
Yeah.
You got to do you. You don't hire a coach and then tell him how to play his rotations. If you're doing that, you're firing him. Brandon Whiteside says players need to be put on their big boy pants and play some perimeter defense. They're not capable of it.
Yeah, literally.
The Utah Jazz don't have a capable on-ball one-on-one defender. Donovan Mitchell's got to grow defensively.
Yeah.
He's got to. And I actually think Rudy's point about Devin Booker compared to Donovan Mitchell is correct.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
never should have said that, but it's right.
He shouldn't have said that, but he ain't wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, Devin Booker's become a pretty good defender, but he's also got a guy in Chris Paul that's teaching him how to win. Like Don doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell does not have that. Rudy fans, did I miss 5 championships you think the Jazz have? Blow this up.
Yeah.
Snuka says, good morning, dude. Snuka.
Snooka.
Says, people are so funny after an embarrassing loss like that. It's either burn the building to the ground or Donovan didn't double knot his Adidas and that cursed the game, and that's why they lost.
God bless.
Rudy is the problem, and it's not because of his play. It's his contract and how players play around him causes all the problems. Rudy not having an offensive game, but if you're paying him half his contract, yeah, it's fine if he's making $20 million a year to be the best defensive player in the NBA. Okay, I can take that. You're paying him $41 million, and you need for Rudy Gobert to be effective offensively. You need to miss shots.
Yeah,
it's probably not the best way to make a living. It's really not. Tanner says to me, Rudy is an entitled brat. I can't stand him anymore. Wow. His comparison is actually good. Donovan is playing his ass off, though, especially Mitchell has greatly gotten better on defense. I don't see significant improvement out of Don on defense.
No.
I mean, I see a guy. Donovan Mitchell is terrible on pick and roll defense.
My personal opinion watching him play is that his willingness needs to go up to play defense. So here's the thing. With what Rudy is allegedly doing in the locker room, calling people out, I don't disagree that people need to be called out.
Yes, correct.
But the problem is that you're not the guy who decides if the Utah Jazz win or lose games. Thus, you're not the guy who should be running his mouth about it.
I would agree.
Should Donovan Mitchell be working harder on defense? Hell yes, he should. Is Rudy Gobert correct about that? Yes, he is. But you're not Donovan Mitchell, bro. You're not that guy. That's the best way I can say it, all jokes aside. Rudy, you're not that guy. You should not be saying these things. Not publicly, not the way you're saying it. Like, it's just being mishandled. So, if I'm Donovan Mitchell, again, I'm not trying to stir the pot here, but think about it. If you're Donovan Mitchell, put yourself in his shoes. What are you thinking right now? Well, we're nowhere near championship. I'm not near, accomplishing anything. I'm sitting here having to play, I'm having to have a pissing match with Rudy Gobert over who the best player on the team is. And it just doesn't need to be this way. And I know the money. You think Donovan Mitchell doesn't know the cap situation in his basketball team? Yeah, he knows the cap situation. So what I'm getting to here, my point is none of this is helping the Utah Jazz, keep Donovan Mitchell long term. And that's my biggest fear out of this whole thing. This is a lost season. It's over. You're not going to win a championship, and that's all that really matters. That's their stated goal. Hey, we want to win a championship or it's not good enough. Okay, well, this year it's not going to be good enough then. So if you're Donovan Mitchell, what's your game plan? Is it, hey, I'm going to talk to Ryan Smith and get some answers? Is it, hey, yeah, either way, no matter what they say, I'm going to leave 3 years into this extension? What's the game plan? That's what I'm really curious about with Donovan Mitchell. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, and do you think that Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge believe they can win a championship this year?
No. I think Danny Ainge has come in and been the voice of reason. I think Danny Ainge has come in and said, hey, this team isn't close to good enough. I think Danny Ainge has said, hey, we need to make calls and we need to make it very clear that we're open to doing business.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's interesting. Brandon or Tanner says, totally agree, Monty. That contract has gotten to Gobert's head. Brandon replied to that by saying, Jazz have rebuilt on the fly multiple times. I'd rather build on the fly, be the Sixers tanking 5+ years, getting all the top picks and still not winning anything. Well, I would remind you that the Sixers are as close as the Toronto Raptors were, or as the Utah Jazz are. I mean, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't hit the rim 17 times a couple of years ago, the Sixers are going to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And if their management hadn't mismanaged Ben Simmons so terribly, they're probably a better team, right? The Sixers are actually really close.
Yeah.
Really, really close. Are the Sixers closer to an NBA championship than the Jazz?
Yes.
Yes, I would believe that they are. I would believe they are. I look at the game with Milwaukee and Memphis last night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much better is Memphis year over year?
Memphis is the team you should be looking at where you're like, man, why are we not improving like that?
Yeah, Olivier Ruiz Rudy thinks he's the alpha male of this team, but he isn't. He's not that for the French national team, and he will never be that for the Jazz.
Agreed. Agreed.
Oof.
It's just the truth.
Don't disagree. James Knight, good morning, says, if LeBron justifies Westbrook and his selfish, undisciplined act, it's all power to him, right? Please, that crap shouldn't be called out. Well, I think you have to call it out.
I don't understand.
So if LeBron justifies Westbrook and his selfish, undisciplined act, it's all power to LeBron, right? Well, but that's what he should be doing. Yeah. That's what the Jazz don't have.
Yeah.
I have no problem with what LeBron's
I don't
doing.
understand what are you saying that it's a double standard, I guess? Is that what you're getting at?
He says the personal hatred you guys have for Rudy is getting old. It's unfair in my opinion. How is it at all personal for Rudy?
Yeah.
I don't know Rudy Gobert personally. I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
Dude, again, the age-old saying, are you watching the games? Do you see what's happening on the floor? Like, they're not feeding him, and they haven't been feeding him for the longest of time.
This is all basketball, man.
By the way,
not personal with Rudy.
By the way, if you're going to sit here and accuse us of having some hatred towards Rudy Gobert and it being personal, I'd just like to remind you that everything that we've said about the Utah Jazz has been true. It's not that we've said, oh, he sucks and he's a terrible player and they should cut him. It's not like that. It is, hey, this guy is a one-dimensional player who thinks he is sliced bread and the best player on the team. And based on what we're being told by very reliable sources, based on our track record, hiring Danny Ainge, firing Dennis Lindsey, there's a laundry list of things we've told you guys that have come true. Those same people are telling us that Rudy Gobert is basically calling a bunch of guys out in the locker room, including Donovan Mitchell. That's not his job.
I think people don't understand that you have to learn how to lose just the same way you got to learn how to win.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I can't remember who it was. Somebody was laughing. I think it was Josh said the Lakers and Jazz don't compare. Oh, actually they do.
They do.
They do. If you look at the way the Lakers are handling losing right now, I would say they're handling it quite well for a team that's not used to losing. You have a bunch of dudes on that roster that have never won.
Dude.
And then you have LeBron James. And if you look at what LeBron is doing with that roster, he is teaching them how to win and how to lose.
Listen, you understand. You want to talk about not comparable? Here's what's not comparable about the Lakers and the Jazz. When you play for the Lakers, the expectation is to win a championship every single year. Anything below that is not good enough, including for Frank Vogel, including for Rob Pelinka, including for LeBron James. It's just the culture, right? It is the culture to be in the NBA Finals every single year.
Correct.
That is not the culture of the Utah Jazz.
That's a culture, not an expectation.
Yes.
The culture of the Lakers is that we will compete for an NBA championship every single year. Not the expectation, not the belief or the hope.
We're not just saying we want to do it.
We're going to, or Frank Vogel is going to get fired. They have injuries. It doesn't matter. They're not winning a championship. We're thinking about making a coaching change.
Oh, we have injuries? Okay, great. Who can we trade to overcome those injuries?
Last year, we disappointed. We're going to completely remake the roster. Did it work? No, but we're doing everything we can do to win a championship. Like, that's the difference between the Jazz and the Lakers. Between the Jazz and any other team you want to point to. Like, again, the Suns, the Warriors. I mean, you go and get Andrew Wiggins. You make deals. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Right? You look at the Suns. Chris Paul didn't win him a championship, but it took them to a place that was far beyond where they had been.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the Chris Paul? Who's the Russ? Who is the guy or the guys that you went out and got to take you to a place where you've never been as a Jazz? Well, Rudy Gay and Eric Paschall.
And Hassan Whiteside.
And Pascal's not really playing that much.
Mm-hmm.
And Whiteside's hurt. And Rudy Gay missed the game. I think he what was it? Heel pain, I think, was the reason he missed the game last night.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can, like, I feel like this happens a lot. With all due respect to the Jameses of the world and to the Brandon Whitesides and to our beloved Jazz fans. You guys can sit here and say that the Jazz are not comparable to the Lakers, and you can laugh it off, and you can say that, we hate Rudy Gobert and all this nonsense. But what I hear you guys saying is you don't want to accept the fact that this team is not good enough. You don't want to accept the fact that this team right now has names, but they don't have winners. That's what you don't want to accept. And I'm telling you, people on Twitter and on this show are underselling what Danny Ainge is going to do to this roster. I am telling you, that dude is coming with a hatchet, and he is going to slice this thing up and completely change the dynamic of this team. I'm telling you that's coming. Be prepared for it. Be prepared.
Brandon Whiteside says, look, if a 2-time defensive player of the year, I think he's 3.
3-time.
3-time defensive player of the whole league can't call out teammates, then the teammates need thicker skin. Okay.
You just don't get it, dude. You don't understand.
It's not that Rudy can't call out teammates. But you don't compare Donovan Mitchell to Devin Booker openly in a media session. You don't do that. You don't complain that you're not getting the ball offensively when you've not shown any ability to contribute offensively.
You turn it over consistently.
Right? He
doesn't have the credibility. He hasn't earned it.
Eric and Raleigh said, Donovan doesn't want to be a leader, so Gobert is trying to fill that void, and he ain't that guy. When there's an absence of leadership, something will fill that leadership void.
Mm-hmm.
For better or for worse. That's just the way it is.
I think it's a great point.
Limit Zio says, Jazz fans only know pain.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Eric C. says, anyone else looking forward to MLS season and how RSL are going to do? It's going to be interesting to see now that Ryan Smith owns RSL. Nightly attacks on Rudy Gobert just get old, James said. James, here's a direct question for James Knight. What have I or we said about Rudy Gobert that is A, personal on any level, or B, incorrect? I think we have pretty much...
We've been saying this since before other people were saying
this is years, man. Like, Rudy Gobert has been the same player for two years offensively.
What have we said that's a personal attack? Let's start there. I'd like an answer to that.
And by the way, here's the issue with Rudy Gobert. I'll just restate my opinion. He's an elite defensive player. As stated, a 3-time defensive player of the year. He's probably going to win 5 of those in his career. But he is painfully limited offensively. Rudy Gobert's biggest night should be when you don't shoot well. Last night, it wasn't that way. He's the leading rebounder in the NBA because he's on a team that takes and misses a lot of threes. But you can't throw him the ball with his back to the basket. He cannot dribble. He does not have touch around the rim. If he does not dunk the ball, it is awkward at best. His highest best use is setting a screen and throwing a lob to him. But now teams are scheming that. Look what happened early in the game last night. How did the Rockets, and I want to make sure I get this right, because I think it's absolutely, who scored the Rockets' first 8 points last night? Jaxson Dart. 2 threes and a layup. Who was guarding Jaxson Dart? Rudy Gobert. Was Rudy Gobert guarding Jaxson Dart at the 3-point line? Sort of. And then when he made those 2 threes, all of a sudden now Rudy's got to attach to Jaxson Dart. So what happened? Well, all of a sudden it turned into a layup line. This is the issue with Rudy Gobert. Defensively, it's not his fault. Offensively, he has not gotten better. And you're paying him $41 million a year.
So how is that a personal attack? Help me understand.
You understand you're paying $30 million in luxury tax. And you overpaid. And by the way, Ryan Smith approved the Rudy Gobert extension.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what more I can say about it. That's not personal. Those are basketball facts.
It's just what's happened, dude. Like,
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, couple more, and then we need to move on. The Warriors are so good because Bob Myers learned from Jerry West. The Jazz are just starting the process now. Ainge is tasked with rebuilding and teaching others how to be a GM. I agree with that.
I agree with that 100%, dude.
I think that's a very, very, very well thought out take. Bob Myers is an elite GM.
Yeah.
I mean, he's managed their luxury tax the best that he could. He's been able to retain his best players. He's been able to make deals. He's been able to draft well.
And he's had misses too. I mean, they've had misses too.
Andrew Wiggins has largely been a miss, but now he's
got
value.
He's an all-star now, though.
Yeah.
He's an all-star now. They've developed him a little bit, and he's turned into an all-star. So, yeah, he was a miss initially, but I think at that time they weren't even ready to win.
Fat Jesus says Rudy Gobert is mean to kids and breaks up with women over text. I believe that's true. I believe that's true.
Great point.
For those who don't know what Foster's is, that's Australian for beer. Thank you.
I
Eric,
prefer
see?
4X, but
I would agree with that. You guys need to make a new shirt that says "We hate Rudy Gobert" just as a joke. Maybe that's our new shirt. You know what? Buy our current shirt. We have 7 shirts left.
We got 7 left. We have to sell them before we can get another order. So
DM me the shirt. Hold the shirt up. I'll show it again.
Yeah.
The shirt is $25. We have XL and 2X left. All you have to do is DM us. The Monty Show, MONTY, the Monty Show. It's $25. And we take Venmo.
And we ship them out every Saturday.
Every Saturday we
do our shipments.
We mail them out. We only have 7 left, so we're kind of at the end of the road on it. Andrew Wiggins is 10 times the player D'Angelo Russell is. That was a great trade by Bob Myers. I would agree with that.
Smart trade.
I have tickets for me and my girlfriend to see the Jazz play the Suns next week. After last night, I'm worried to see the Suns blow out the Jazz. Could be. Jeremy Bolton says local media talks about you guys because you guys will talk about the real issues. Ass vacuuming, Knicks Chubb, and the sad excuse that is Cafe Rio.
U.S. Americans.
We keeps it real on this show. It is funny to hear the local guys talking about us. So I think it's hysterical.
I love the concept, and then we gotta get on to Jaxson Dart and all this. But just really quick, I love the concept or the idea that a local radio station, due to our in your car on the radio, are coming out on their show and saying a former local radio hack. You're trying to put somebody else down for what reason? For what reason?
Well, I think the thing that has become so obvious is that you don't have a real critical voice of this team, the Utah Jazz, in the local market.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, if you listen to 1280 The Zone or KSL on Jazz coverage, it is rah-rah, and there's a lot
of
it's a
slurp fest, dude.
There's we and us. If you listen to, like BYU, I don't think there's any question that Mitch Harper is the best BYU guy in the market.
Agreed.
By far, but he's never going to say a critical thing, and with all due respect to Mitch, I understand why. Mitch is not going to break news on BYU because that's not what KSL's purpose is.
Yeah.
Right? So I understand that for BYU, and I think Mitch, again, does a fabulous job for KSL and BYU.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no excuse not to be critical of the Jazz. None.
Why
Zero.
has nobody in the media, think about this. Remember when all the Donovan Mitchell, like, trade stuff, or, hey, not trade stuff, but, like, hey, he's going to leave for the Knicks or the Heat, or remember when all that kind of first started, and that was kind of a firestorm, if you will. Why did nobody in the media, that next media session with Don, just simply ask, hey, Don, I want to give you an opportunity to set the record straight just because, there's a lot of rumors out there, and I just want to give you the opportunity to tell it how it is. Are you considering leaving for the Knicks or the Heat? Why is that such a tough question to ask?
Are you happy being a Utah Jazz man? And are you considering leaving?
Why is that such a hard question to ask?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? And so I just thought it was funny. Like, to me, I would never go if, we've been on the radio, we've won awards, it's behind them, we've done some things. I would never go on the radio and be like, yeah, some local hack said this.
I have no problem mentioning people by name. I've never understood that. Like when we were in Phoenix at the shitty radio station, 98.7.
Yeah.
It's 98.7, right?
Yeah, 98.7.
Yeah. Would get upset if we would talk about them, and they would call my bosses at ESPN.
We mocked Ron Wolfley many times, and it was funny as hell.
And they called my bosses at ESPN and were like, hey, you got to tell him to stop. We can't have this. Really? Why do you care that we're talking about you, man? Like, are you serious? It's
hilarious, man.
It
is hilarious. But all I'm going to say, the only thing else I want to say on this is, hey, talk about us, please. It helps us. Please talk about us.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody's like, oh, you've never been right about anything. Well, then there's the Jaxson Dart story we need to get to.
Let's do it.
We tweeted on the 12th, I tweeted on the 12th, that Jaxson Dart.
It's something to get choked up over.
I tweeted on January 12th that BYU was in heavy pursuit of Jaxson Dart. You're an idiot. Jaren Hall's the greatest quarterback ever. That kid's a stud. You're going to hell. Like so many people got
Satan's
upset.
lies.
So many people got upset. Oh, by the way, Jaxson Dart visited BYU in Provo yesterday. And Jaxson Dart was told in no uncertain terms that he will be given every opportunity to be QB1 if he chooses to come to Provo to play college football at BYU.
Now let's talk about some of the competition that BYU's facing.
Yeah.
Like he's looking at schools in the SEC.
He is looking at Oklahoma in the Big 12, and he is looking at Ole Miss by reports. And he obviously put out pictures of himself in an Oklahoma uniform on his Insta and Twitter. Mm-hmm. He took a picture with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and he was at BYU yesterday.
Yeah.
So he was at OU on Monday and Tuesday, and then he was at BYU on Wednesday. And by all accounts, BYU was told, Jaxson Dart told BYU he had not made a decision on where he was going to play football next season. Mm-hmm. And that BYU has just as much shot as anybody. I think Jaxson Dart wants to play at BYU. There would be no, I mean, if you listen to what he has said to BYU, if you understand that BYU has told him, hey, we're not going to hand you the number one job, but you have every chance to be our starting quarterback. I don't know why he would not want to play at home. I mean, this is a Corner Canyon alum.
Yeah.
And this kid is a stud.
Yeah. Before
he got hurt at USC last year, their fortunes were very different. And obviously now, you know, you're going to bring in Williams from Oklahoma to play quarterback at USC. You know, like, hey, I totally get it.
Yeah.
If Jaxson Dart did the exact right thing, right? Jaxson Dart should play at BYU. It makes all the sense in the world. And with all due respect, and I know that people get, and I don't know why people get upset when I say Jaren Hall's an average quarterback.
Yeah.
Jaren Hall is a guy that is not an elite thrower and not an elite runner. He is a very good thrower and a very good runner. Jaxson Dart is a cut above Jaren Hall. Jaxson Dart has the talent to be the best quarterback in college football. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me that Jaren Hall has the ability, the talent to be the best quarterback in college football?
But he's a dual threat.
I'm telling you now that Jaren Hall shown no ability to be durable. By the way, Jaxson Dart got hurt in his first game. Maybe he doesn't show any ability to be durable. We'll see. You know what Jaren Hall is. I think you have a pretty good idea that Jaxson Dart is a better quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think you have a pretty good idea that if Jaxson Dart is under center for the BYU Cougars, they're a better football team.
Well, and I think if you're Jaxson Dart, you're looking at what's taken place over the last couple of seasons at BYU, and you like what you see.
And you also have an opportunity to play against OU, to play against Oklahoma State, to play in the Big 12, to be a reason that BYU has an opportunity to compete for a conference championship their first year. Mm-hmm. Like, everything aligns for Jaxson Dart at BYU. My guess is he'd walk in and be handed the starting job at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And probably Ole Miss as well. But I think Jaxson Dart has that hometown ping for himself. Mm-hmm. I think he has those pulling at the heartstrings to play at BYU. Because why else would he waste his time? He could have signed a letter yesterday at Oklahoma.
Yep.
He could have stayed at SC because gone to Ole Miss. So why come visit BYU? Because as I've said, they have a legitimate chance. They've made it very clear to Jaxson Dart that they want him to be their starting quarterback and that they will give him the opportunity to do so. And I don't know, Jaxson Dart has never said, from my understanding, Jaxson Dart has never said to anybody, you need to guarantee me I'm the number one quarterback.
Yeah.
I've not heard from a single person that he's said that.
I don't take him to be that kind of guy.
I think he wants
based
it.
on what we've seen, but.
And I understand that Jaren Hall's your incumbent. But again, this goes back to Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be nice or do you want to win games? Do you want to just win enough or do you want to compete for a conference championship? Do you want a seat at the table or do you just want a chance to have a seat at the table?
Yeah.
Because it's time to get on with getting on. BYU has a nice guy problem. And until BYU shows that they're not just trying to be a nice guy and get along,
yeah,
They're going to be the nice guy on the block that Georgia Southern punched in the face and nobody retaliated.
Facts.
Jaxson Dart should be your starting quarterback when fall camp rolls around. Plain and simple. I mean, it is.
I
you
said it better myself.
It is what it is. Jeremy Bolton says that's it. Jaren Hall's an average quarterback. Blasphemy. Though I'd love to have Dart come in, it'll make everyone better. And if he wins the spot, then he deserves the starting spot. I agree. Jaxson Dart's a better quarterback than Jaren Hall.
Yeah.
He's a better quarterback. He is more dynamic than Jaren Hall is. And you know what? I'm hoping they compete. That's better for BYU football. If Jaren Hall and Jaxson Dart have to fight tooth and nail to win the job, that's better for BYU football.
I'm a man.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Chris Karn, good morning to you. Dart is better than Hall. I love Jaren, and he's done a good job for BYU, but Dart is next level. Totally agree. Tanner Plummer, I've probably said this before, but I think the reason why people are so obsessed with Jaren Hall is because he broke the 9-game losing streak to Utah. It's basically Brigham Young reincarnate now.
I guess.
Take it easy. Quentin Moyer says Baylor Romney is underrated. Totally agree. I'm interested to see where I wonder if Baylor Romney ever plays football again.
Well, you know the guy we're not talking about, right? Jacob Conover. Where's he at?
No, the question's going to be where is he going to be at? Because
Sure.
if you're Jacob Conover, I don't listen. Jacob Conover just doesn't seem to be BYU's guy.
Pack your shit. Let's go.
Right? If I'm Jacob Conover, if Jaxson Dart shows up, I'm putting my name in the portal.
That's it, Skippy.
Like I don't know because he's never going to play.
Yeah, just is what it is.
Yeah, BYU has always been good in getting QBs. Limit Zio says. I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the last truly elite quarterback at BYU?
Zach Wilson.
Number 2 in the draft. He was pretty good. But I'm trying to think, like, who is, like, the last Heisman caliber? Have they ever had the best quarterback in college football in the modern era?
No.
They haven't. And I think that's the one thing that you have to get back to is BYU's got to, again, have the best talent at every skill position. And the wide receivers certainly have been, I mean, obviously with Tyler Algier, that was a freak show, though, a guy that, flipped. Like, the recruiting has gotten much better with Kalani, and obviously the Big 12 is going to help that.
Yeah.
But Jaxson Dart goes a long way because what the narrative will be if he comes to BYU and wins that job and everybody writes a fairy tale, well, you know what? Maybe we don't need to leave the state of Utah because Jaxson Dart should have never left the state of Utah.
Yeah. It's kind of a crime that he was at SC.
That's what I'm saying. And he's Porter Gustin. He's all these guys that wind up getting away from Utah and BYU.
Mm-hmm.
He's all these guys. And it would be nice to turn that around. Ty Detmer was not modern era. I don't think. But I guess that's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
Max Hall, I guess. I don't know. Max Hall was not the best quarterback in college football. But hey, that's me. I think Quentin Moyer, I think you're right. It's Zach Wilson. John Beck. Yeah, John Beck was a very good quarterback. Very good quarterback. All right. So because we're on the clock here, damn, it's 8:00 already.
Yeah.
Wound up at urgent care yesterday.
What did you do this time?
Well, you know what? The funny thing is I fell snowboarding 2 weekends ago.
Okay.
In embarrassing fashion. Like I wasn't actually on a run. I was getting off a lift at the top of PCMR and fell and just hammered my knee.
Damn.
And it was bad. And it didn't stop me from riding that day. I hopped right back on the T-Rice Pro and it was fine.
Right.
But my knee had been swollen and whatever. And I think and my doctor yesterday agreed, I probably broke a bursa sac in there.
Spinal.
So it just blows up. But there was a lot of blood. And so I went fine. I went snowboarding this past weekend as well. But when I took off my boot this past weekend, my leg had all this blood on it. Like, you know how if you break a blood vessel, you have all this blood at the surface? And my leg was pretty swollen, and it's been swollen since. And it's gone down, and it's getting better. but it just hasn't gotten well enough. So I did, I'm a UHealth patient. So I did through their app, I did a telehealth appointment.
And it's going to go into crisis lockdown mode here at the house.
And the lady pretty much panicked me. She's like, hey, well, what's your schedule look like for the rest of the day? And I'm like, oh, I'm pretty open. She said, you should be seen right now. If you can go over right now, I'd go over right now.
We got you out of your routine today, but I'm proud to be here with you.
I'm like, oh, Lord. What is this now? And so she's telling me I could have a blood clot, and I'm like freaking out. So I go to urgent care. They do an X-ray and an ultrasound.
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, yeah, this is nothing. I think you probably broke a bursa sac in your knee, and it drained a lot of blood into that area. And then, when you stand up, the blood runs down your leg, and certainly snowboarding. And it turned out to be nothing, but there was a nervous 5 minutes in there. Where that lady on the telehealth call was like, you should go right now.
I think that's HIPAA.
You should go. Can you come over right? And when she's like, well, can you come over right now?
You're like,
I was like, well,
I guess.
And then she followed that up when I said, well, she's like, I would come over right now.
Is that a real question?
And she's like, let me check the urgent care waiting list. And she's like, there's nobody waiting there. They have a really short wait. You should come over. So I was kind of freaked out about that.
Okay, so you get there, and what was it like? I mean,
was not
cool?
like an urgent care at all.
Okay.
Like the UHealth and Daybreak is beautiful. It's like having a doctor visit. You go up, you go to the third floor, you say, hey, I'm here for urgent care. They're like, yeah, hallway D, sit in the middle of the lobby right there, no problem. You come out, and they're like, hey, Tim, yep, that's me. You go into a waiting room, you go into a...
Okay. Yeah, so it was good.
Took my vitals.
So what did they do? So the scan, so what was it like getting your leg scanned?
It was weird.
Okay.
Like they just do some like ultrasound scanning, and you can kind of see it. The X-ray was brutal because I do have a bone spur on my knee.
Oh, really?
That eventually I'm probably going to have shaved down. And thankfully, the guy that I saw turned out to be an orthopedic specialist. He just was covering a shift at urgent care somehow, some way. I don't know. But he was telling me, hey, I'm an orthopedic doctor. And so he was telling me, yeah, I think you have a little arthritis in your knee. I think you probably just, banged it. He's like, but fortunately for you, you have really strong calves and quads. And he said, it looks like your hamstrings are in pretty good shape.
That's funny because we never do legs.
Never do legs. But we have been doing hamstrings, and we did a bunch of quad work over the summer. And he said that's probably what saved you is you have strong, supporting leg muscles.
Saved you from what?
From a major knee injury. He's like, I'm really kind of surprised that, he said, but the amount of blood that it looks like was involved in this. Because you can see in the scan that, like, there's cloudy fluid. He wanted to drain my knee. I was like, nah. He's like, it'll be probably 5 days. This should be...
5 days of what?
It's going to be stiff. He said it'll probably be a little stiff. He said, and I said, well, what should I do with it? He said, nothing. Actually, regular activity. I said, so I can snowboard, I can lift, I can do... You think, yeah, no problem at all. But, like, it's got some cloudy stuff in there, and you can see on the X-ray, on the back of my knee, there's a spot where I have arthritis there.
Yeah.
My knee is not.
And this is your right knee?
Right knee. Yeah.
Right knee. Yeah.
The left knee, I don't have an ACL. And he said they actually, for people, he made me feel old. It's like, for people of your age, we don't recommend ACL reconstruction unless it impacts the quality of life.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, because if you've torn an ACL, it is the rehab is a brutal process.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, here we go. Brylark says, Monty always bursting his sack. Quentin Moyer, Monty busted a nut too fat. His sack busted too. Thank you. Jeremy Bolton says, so you broke your sack and it's going to be stiff. That's exactly right.
Hey.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Tanner says, oh, gosh, Monty, that's scary. I'm glad you're all right. Thanks. James Knight says, did you just say you burst your sack, Monty? I did. Everybody on that sack life.
Yep.
So there you have it.
Well, I'm glad you survived urgent care.
I never want to go back.
Yeah. It's kind of a stressful thing.
But yeah, he also, he basically said if you keep losing weight, you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
He said you'll probably, he said if you just take care of yourself, you probably, because I said, am I going to eventually need knee replacement? He said, yeah, probably not. He said if you take care of yourself and you lose weight and you stay in shape the way you are, you're going to be fine.
Well, just keep lifting, dude.
That's all I need to do. So,
yeah.
There you have it. Play the music because we got to go.
Okay.
We'll talk about voter rights tomorrow. Play the Mitch McConnell real quick.
Okay.
Just play this Mitch McConnell bite is terrible.
African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans.
One more time.
I'm going to play one more time.
African American voters are voting in just as high a percentage as Americans.
Bro.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Mitch.
Let that sink in.
Dude.
So African Americans are not Americans.
U.S. Americans.
Mitch, what are you doing, bud? Now play the music. All right, we got to go. Good to see you. Please buy our shirt. We have 7 left.
Yes.
DM me, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. They're $25.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
By the way, tomorrow, major announcement on a new giveaway. It's what you guys have all asked for. And once we're out of these shirts, we're going to make a drop shirt. It's probably going to be shout out to Mo Bamba.
Shout out to Mo Bamba or we hate Rudy Gobert.
Or your girlfriend commented on your grandmother's post. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.